The economy is officially out of recession, with gross domestic product up 0.7% for the final quarter of last year. Now, that is slightly higher than most economists were predicting, Westpac calling it a genuine upside surprise because it was driven by real activity rather than seasonal issues. Stats NZ says higher spending by international visitors helped, with 11 out of 16 industries seeing an increase. Transport, retail and agriculture leading the way. But times are still tough for the construction sector. That fell 3.1%, continuing a decline that started in March last year. Zane Small has more.
The sun's out, but a cloud has been hanging over Nick Farrelly's business, Edge City Builders.
We probably are down, I don't think we're down probably 20% of our turnover. And that's with us really proactively getting out there and doing different types of work.
That meant expanding from residential construction to commercial. It's how he ended up with this project, transforming a classroom into a meeting room at an Auckland school. We
could see this coming. We knew that there was a dip in the market. We knew we had to pivot. So we early on during, way back in the COVID, we had a bit of time. We actually became licensed with the education department.
Today's gross domestic product update showed the construction sector was down 3.1% in the 3 months to December.
It's fallen in 5 of the last 6 quarters, and this is actually the largest annual decline in construction we've seen since 1992.
As chair of New Zealand Certified Builders, it's no surprise for Nick Farrelly.
But it has been difficult.
But it's not all bad news. The economy as a whole grew by 0.7%. It followed 2 consecutive quarters of decline that plunged the country into a technical recession. But that's now over, and it's thanks to a rise in tourists spending their cash.
So spending by international visitors is actually now higher than it was pre-COVID, but we look in terms of the visitor numbers, they're not quite back at that peak.
The Prime Minister is on a mission to boost those numbers by appealing to India's 1.4 billion people to visit New Zealand.
It is the best country on earth, that it is the best tourism proposition that you can ever experience.
Continuing his charm offensive to secure a free trade deal, Christopher Luxon was in Mumbai overseeing the signing of a partnership between Air New Zealand and Air India to work towards a direct flight between the two countries by 2028.
It's not all that far from India to New Zealand. What we're going to see is a significant increase in traffic.
Today's figures show retail trade and accommodation was up 1.9%, and yet household consumption was only up slightly at 0.1%. That's because the growth in retail trade and accommodation was attributed to those international visitors, not so much people living here in New Zealand. Because despite the decline in interest rates, cost of living pressures continue to eat into people's spending power.
If the money that's being saved from the mortgage is now just instead being spent on the rates bill, on insurance bills, on other bills that people can't avoid, on the electricity bill that you can't avoid, you're no better off.
The recovery is underway. There's no doubt people have been through a very tough time with high inflation and high interest rates. With those now coming under control, growth is coming back. So it's very good to see.
It's what Nick Farrelly is waiting for.
If businesses are confident, they'll obviously hold on to their staff and invest, and that trickles down to our sector.
And ultimately help the construction industry pick up and head in a better direction.
Well, OK, Zane, how does New Zealand's GDP growth compare with other countries?
Well, it is important to point out that annually New Zealand's GDP is down 0.5%. But as you saw in my story, compared to the previous quarter, it's up 0.7%. And you'll be pleased to know that by that definition, we have beaten Australia, even if by 1 percentage point.
We like doing that. That's good, yeah.
The figures show Australia's quarterly growth was 0.6%, the same as Canada and the US. The UK only 0.1%. It's also worth noting that the slight uptick in the economy is not expected to sway the Reserve Bank. It has signalled more cuts to the official cash rate, and economists at Infometrics expect the central bank to remain on course. The next update is on April the 9th.